stop. Don't scroll. You feel that unexplained weight in your chest because a moed has just crossed your threshold. You have been in a long period of silence, exhausted and nearing the point of giving up. But something you did today has opened an exception in the heavens. This isn't just another video. It is a divine appointment that arrived without warning, moving into your spirit to reveal what has been hidden for months. Listen closely, for the silence is finally ending. Your soul is in a state of permanent alert, and your body is paying the price. You lay down to rest, but the sleep of the righteous feels like a distant memory. You find yourself waking at 3 in the morning with a nameless pressure in your chest, staring into the dark, and waiting for a confirmation that never seems to arrive. It is the exhaustion of a sentinel who has been standing guard far too long without any relief or orders. Even the simplest decisions have started to paralyze you. You are afraid that one more wrong move will cost you another year of wandering in the desert. You find yourself making choices out of sheer urgency, only to feel the bitter taste of regret before the day is over. You have diagnosed the patterns of your failures, yet you feel unable to break them, repeating the same cycles in different contexts with different people, as if you are stuck. And then there is your home, the sanctuary that has become a battlefield of silence. Your spouse has learned to stop asking how your day was, because they are afraid of the storm they see on your face. Your children have stopped calling you for the little things, sensing that you are carrying a weight that leaves no room for them. You bring that heaviness to the dinner table every night, and the distance in your house grows even as you sit together. I am going to show you where you have really been these last few months, in a way that finally makes the silence make sense. You will recognize yourself in the specifics, the exact night, the exact decision, the exact conversation. I will deliver to you the Hebrew secret of the Moed, a protocol of 3 steps that will decode what has been sealed for you. This revelation is not for later. It happens right here, inside this very video, for your life. At the very end, I will declare 3 specific names over your life. This is not a generic blessing. It is a specific commission that shifts your identity from a victim of circumstances to a bearer of the decree. But I must be honest with you. If you leave in the middle, you leave without the sealing. I don't promise that your life changes by tomorrow morning, but I promise you will leave with a specific instrument that protects what God is doing. Think of your life right now as a seed in the dead of winter. The ground above you is hard, frozen, and dark, with no external evidence that anything is alive. But you were not dropped there by accident. You were placed there with divine intention by hands that knew exactly what you were carrying. The silence of the soil is not the silence of death, but the silence of a deep preparation. You are growing in the dark, beneath the surface. The truth is, you haven't been fighting poorly. You have simply been fighting without the instrument that was promised to you. You are trying to build a kingdom with your bare hands, when you were meant to use a plumb line and a sword. There is a specific tool, a map for this battlefield, that you don't even know exists yet. Without it, you are just a soldier wandering in the fog without a compass, exhausted by your own strength. Before we go further, I want you to take a moment of positioning. Type, "I am here," in the comments as an act of faith and decree. Now, regarding that weight you carry home and the decisions that feel frozen, there is something that Solomon left recorded. It is a 2-minute key that fits perfectly into your common day. It is an instrument of wisdom that I will show you very soon. Keep that in the back of your mind. If you happen to be in a rush and need to leave before the end, this instrument is already waiting for you in the first pinned comment right below this video. However, I urge you to stay until the final word is spoken. Without the context I'm about to give you, the key will not have the same power in your hands. You need to understand the name of the encounter before the instrument can truly work its wonder in your house. The heavens have opened a door for you today, but doors do not stay open forever. We are about to enter the chamber where the archives of your next season are kept. But before I open that door and reveal the name of your encounter, I have to ask you one thing to test your heart. What happens to a seed that no one planted, no one waters, and yet, against every law of nature, it still insists on growing? You arrived here because what you did today opened an exception in heaven. Between the thunder of the promise and the quiet fulfillment of that divine appointment in your home, there is an interval, an interval that the enemy knows better than you, and it is in this gap that most of the chosen ones lose what was granted. Not because the decree was revoked, but because they arrived home on a Monday morning and lacked the instrument to host the weight of the presence. Solomon was the wisest man who ever lived. This isn't a title from a history book, it's a biblical record signed by God himself. When he had the chance to ask for anything at all, he didn't ask for wealth, long life, or the heads of his enemies. He asked for wisdom. And God was so moved by the request that he gave him wisdom and everything else alongside it. He judged the dispute between the two mothers when no one else in the kingdom knew how. He wrote 3,000 proverbs. He governed Israel at a historical peak that nation has never seen before or since. The Queen of Sheba traveled for months just to test this wisdom, and when she left, she said that not even half had been told. And Jesus himself, Jesus in person, cited Solomon by name. He didn't take this wisdom to the grave. He recorded it with surgical precision that has crossed 3,000 years without losing its edge. He left recorded how to stop colliding with the same stones of your past and missing your moed because your hands were too busy trying to fix old mistakes. He left recorded how to host the thunder of a divine encounter without letting the pressure of the mantle break the dinner table or collapse the roof over the heads of your spouse and children, so your family can finally breathe and feel your presence, not your pressure. And he left recorded how to walk with the straight spine of someone who has a scheduled appointment with the king, so you stop deciding in the heat of panic, stop asking for advice from those who sink you, and stop believing in those who sell cheap miracles. Before I name the instrument, move your thumb to the first pinned comment right below. Don't click yet. Just let your gaze reach it and recognize that it's there. Do that now. I have gathered this into a guide called Pakawis, the Code of Solomon's Wisdom. It is a main written guide in PDF that you read in one 40-minute sitting, plus the audio of the Ritual of the Righteous Sleep in MP3 to listen to before bed, and the written guide of the 7 morning decrees in PDF to open in the first hour of your day. It is in the first pinned comment, right below. It is the union of the wisdom of Proverbs with the principles of peaceful restoration, which take a person out of survival mode and bring them into a state of clarity and decision. Solomon wrote it. I organized it for the common day you are living right now, in this week that begins tomorrow. Along with the main guide come 2 instruments. The first is the Ritual of the Righteous Sleep. 10 minutes before bed, guided by what David wrote in Psalm 4:8. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. It is not a modern relaxation technique. It is the act of handing over to the guard of him who never sleeps what you carried all day, so your soul stops standing watch over the uninvited guest of your worries and trusts the one who doesn't need you awake to defend what is yours. The second is the awakening of clarity, the 7 morning decrees. 5 minutes upon waking, before your phone, before your coffee, 7 decrees pronounced in your own voice, taken from the wisdom of Proverbs, which position the day before the day positions you. It is a royal posture before the calendar, and the routines speak for you, ensuring the thunder of your purpose doesn't turn into the noise of distraction. And the value, oh, the value. Less than a Starbucks coffee in the afternoon, less than a simple Sunday lunch with your family, less than a tank of gas to drive to church on Sunday. I set it at this value on purpose, not because it's worth little, it's worth what Solomon recorded over 3,000 years. I set it so the only obstacle between you and the instrument would be your decision to reach out. Not price, not schedule, not travel. Just your hand toward the link. And there is a guarantee of 7 days. If you open it, use it for a week, and it doesn't serve you, you send an email and receive your money back in full. And here is the part no one else does. You keep the 2 bonus instruments. The Ritual of the Righteous Sleep stays with you. The Awakening of Clarity, the 7 morning decrees, stays with you, even after the refund. This isn't a generous concession. It is the recognition that the risk of testing cannot be yours. The risk is ours. The only risk left for you is the risk of not testing, the risk of leaving here with an open decree in heaven and losing it on Monday morning for lack of an instrument. Several people here on this channel, in recent weeks have already received this instrument. Fathers, grandparents, people who carry their household on their backs. I've read messages from a husband who sat down at the dinner table and his wife noticed the difference without needing to ask. From a grandmother who managed to pray with her grandchild without the weight of the day crossing the prayer. From those who slept through the night for the first time in months. It's not magic, it's the right instrument in the right hand. And while they sleep tonight with their soul handed over, your calendar keeps running. The next night you lay your head on the pillow with your soul still on alert is tonight, maybe 3 hours from now. The next morning you wake up thinking about the battles, starting the day at a disadvantage, is tomorrow. Every night without the ritual of the righteous sleep is a night your body will pay for. Every morning without the awakening of clarity, the 7 morning decrees, is a morning the world rewrites first. The cost of delaying is not 0, but don't leave now. The ceiling is not yet finished. What I need to show you next is greater than any instrument Solomon recorded. It is the Hebrew name of what is happening to you at this very moment, the name of the exception that was opened in heaven because of what you did today. And when you hear this name, you will understand why everything up to this point was preparation for one single word: stay. You aren't losing your mind, and you aren't under a curse. You are being prepared in a secret chamber of pressure that most will never understand. This weight in your chest is not an attack. It is the physical sensation of a heavy mantle being dropped into your spirit. You have been looking for explanations in the natural world for a phenomenon that is strictly divine. I am going to give you 5 specific signs that validate your identity in this season. If you recognize these, you are not being forgotten, you are being commissioned. The first sign is the muffled prayer. You have noticed that your prayer life has changed its tone. It used to be easy to feel the goosebumps and the emotional highs, but now it feels like your words are hitting a leaden ceiling and bouncing back. You feel a dense, heavy silence where there used to be a flow. What you mistake for divine abandonment is actually a divine shift in frequency. You are no longer being fed as a child with milk. You are being invited to the silent chamber of the generals. The heavens aren't closed. They are simply waiting for you to host the weight of the decree without needing a daily pep talk. The second sign is decision paralysis. You find yourself staring at choices that used to be simple, feeling an inordinate amount of pressure. You have diagnosed the patterns of your past failures, the way you repeat the same mistakes in different contexts, but you feel unable to break the loop. This frozen state is not cowardice. It is the weight of a moed pressing against your common sense. You are being trained to stop deciding in the heat of your own urgency so that you can begin deciding in the cold clarity of a divine appointment. The patterns are showing up now so that the instrument can finally cut them away. The third sign is the living room silence, and this is the heaviest burden you carry. You walk through your front door, and a specific type of quiet follows you. Your spouse has learned to read the storm on your face and has stopped asking, "How was your day?" to avoid the lightning. Your children sense the leaden weight on your shoulders and have stopped calling you for the little things, sensing there is no room for them in your storm. You are not being rejected by your family. They are simply reacting to the unmanaged pressure you are hosting. You are a king who hasn't yet learned how to leave the crown at the door. The fourth sign is the leaking vessel. You have noticed that resources are slipping through invisible cracks in your common day. An unexpected car repair, a bill you forgot, or energy that simply evaporates by 2 in the afternoon, leaving you drained before the day is half over. It feels like you are carrying water in a sack full of holes. This isn't a curse of poverty. It is a divine audit of your management. You are being squeezed in the area of your daily resources to see if you can still govern the small while the great mantle of the moed is being prepared for your shoulders. The fifth sign is the answer of silence. You have begged for a sign, a fleece, or a single word of confirmation, and the only response has been a thunderous, echoing silence. You feel like you're wandering in a fog without a compass, and your soul is screaming for a map. But understand this. Silence is the highest compliment God pays to a chosen one. He only stays quiet when he knows you are capable of holding the line based on the last command he gave. What looks like a desert of neglect is actually the secret place where your old identity is being stripped away to reveal the bearer of the decree. If you recognize yourself in at least 3 of these 5 signs, I want you to perform an act of positioning right now. Type, "I carry what no one else carries" in the comments below. This is not for me. It is a decree for your own soul to hear. You are acknowledging that the weight you feel is not a burden to be discarded, but a mantle to be managed. By speaking this, you are telling the heavens and the enemy that you have recognized the knock of the Moed at your door. You are no longer a victim of the silence. You are the host of the encounter. Think of this period as a pressure chamber. You feel like you are being esmagado, like the walls are closing in and there is no air left to breathe. But remember the carbon and the coal. Without the crushing weight and the intense heat, the diamond never forms. The very pressure that makes you want to quit is the refinery that is turning your charcoal history into a gemstone of authority. You are not being broken. You are being refined into something that can cut through the hardest obstacles of your next season. The mantle is heavy because the territory it covers is vast. Before I reveal the Hebrew name of the encounter you are currently hosting, I must remind you of something essential. The instrument that Solomon left recorded, the one I mentioned earlier, is not a replacement for the name you are about to receive. It is the tool that helps you sustain that name in the cold, hard reality of your Monday morning after the spiritual high has passed. First comes the name to define your identity. Then comes the instrument to defend your house against the spirit of delay. First, the name, then the tool. Stay with me. There is a specific word in Hebrew that defines exactly what you are carrying right now. It is a word that changes the way you look at every silent night and every difficult dinner at your table. When I speak this word, the fog will begin to lift and you will finally see the map of the battlefield you've been wandering without a compass. You will never look at this period of your life the same way again. The silence is about to be broken by a single ancient name. Stay. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Place your hand on your chest. Feel the rhythm of your heart, not as a clock ticking away your days, but as a drum announcing an arrival you didn't see coming. The silence you have been living in is not empty. It is occupied. You are not alone in your room or your thoughts. There is a weight in the air, a density in your spirit that tells you the atmosphere has changed. You are hosting something that your mind cannot yet explain, but your spirit already recognizes. The word that names this moment is Moed. Many people translate this simply as a festival or a set time, but that is a shallow shell that does not touch the depth of what you are experiencing. They think it's just a date on a calendar, but for the chosen one, it is much more. A Moed is a divine appointment that arrives without warning. It is the uninvited guest who moves into your house and demands your full attention. It is the knock at midnight that changes the trajectory of your entire lineage while the rest of the world is fast asleep. Asmodkir is the thunder in a clear sky. It is the heavy mantle of heaven being dropped into your soul, and because it is heavy, it feels like pressure. You have been calling it stress. God calls it a meeting. You have been calling it a crisis. The heavens call it an alignment. It is the winepress of hidden greatness, where the skin of your old identity is being crushed so that the new wine of your authority can finally flow. You are not being attacked by a storm. You are being visited by a set time that has no regard for your comfort. This truth is anchored in the ancient scrolls in Psalm 102:13. Thou shalt arise and have mercy upon Zion, for the time to favor her, yea, the set time is come. That set time is your Moedikai. It is the legal moment in the court of heaven when the favor of God decides to manifest, whether the circumstances of your life are ready or not. It is the arrival of the decree in your living room, crossing your threshold to remind you that you are not forgotten, but specifically scheduled. Understand this mystery. Your season has a name before it has an end. You have been praying for the end of the silence, but the silence cannot end until you recognize the name of the one who is speaking through it. When you name the encounter, you begin to host the presence instead of fearing the pressure. You stop being a victim of the dark and start being the bearer of the decree. The silence is not a void. It is a sacred chamber where the name of your next season is being whispered into your ears. Think again of that seed in the dead of winter. The soil is frozen and the world above is silent. But that seed is not waiting for spring to decide its identity. It already carries the code of the harvest within its shell. The Moed is the divine code that activates that secret archive. You thought you were being buried by the weight of your decisions and the silence of your house, but you were actually being placed in the only environment where the archive could be opened. You are not losing your way. You are meeting your appointment. Now that you know the name of what you carry, I must show you that someone carried this before you. Someone who was hiding in a winepress, just as you might be hiding behind your current struggles, unaware that a Fi Moed had just walked into his common day without an invitation. And what happened to him when he recognized the knock is what is about to happen to you. It will change the way you look at your family, your body, and your future. I promise to come back to this. It is now. You feel like you are hiding, not because you are a coward, but because you have been protecting a tiny flame in a hurricane. You have been threshing wheat in a winepress, doing the right work in the wrong environment just to keep the enemy from seeing your harvest. You are exhausted by the secrecy, by the feeling that your life is shrinking while your spirit is expanding. You look at your family and feel the gap between who you are called to be and who you are acting like just to survive the day. You are Gideon, and you do not even know it yet. You have been hosting the silence of an appointment you haven't yet named, waiting for a sign that you aren't alone in the dark. Gideon was living in a season of muffled prayers. For 7 long years, Midian had stripped the land bare, leaving Israel in a state of permanent alert and survival. Gideon was hiding in a winepress, trying to save a small portion of wheat from the spirit of delay that had gripped his entire nation. He was the least in his father's house, in the poorest tribe, carrying the weight of a silent heaven on his shoulders. He asked the same questions you ask in the middle of the night. If the Lord is with us, why then is all this befallen us? He was the sentinel of a promise that seemed to have been forgotten. But when the Moed arrived, it did not come as a miracle. It came as a test of clarity. The angel of the Lord called him a mighty man of valor while he was still covered in the dust of the winepress. Gideon did not need more faith to start. He needed a specific instrument of discernment to identify which altar to tear down first. He applied a surgical wisdom to his own house, dismantling the old structures of his father's past before he ever marched against the enemy. He realized that a leader who cannot manage the spiritual climate of his own living room cannot govern a liberated nation. He used the instrument of clarity to fix his house first. That invisible preparation, the hiding, the hard questions, the quiet dismantling of old patterns, was not wasted time. It was the frequency tuning for your soul. When the trumpet finally blew, Gideon did not have to become someone new. He simply had to step into the identity that the Moed had already established in the silence of the winepress. The winepress was not your prison. It was the secret chamber where your authority was forged. Your silence is ending now because your tuning is complete. The mantle that felt like lead is about to become the wings that carry you over the very battle you have been fearing. Take a moment now. Every like on this video is another chosen one who needs to hear this same word, another soldier who is about to give up in their own winepress. You are not doing this for me. You are doing it for them, marking this frequency so they can find their way out of the fog of delay. It is an act of spiritual intercession to tell the algorithm that this message belongs in the hands of the weary and the heavy laden. Do it now as a sign that you are moving from hiding the harvest to hosting the encounter that changes everything. I declare over you now, you are a keeper of the promise. You are the one who has been chosen to guard the word during the long midnight of the encounter, holding on to the decree when there was no physical evidence to support it. You have been a sentinel of the silence, keeping watch over a seed that was buried in the winter, refusing to let the frost of the world's opinions kill what God planted in your spirit. You have protected the flame when the oil was low, and your faithfulness in the dark has been recorded in the courts of heaven. This identity authorizes you to stand firm when everyone else is retreating. As a keeper of the promise, your spiritual eyes have been sharpened to see through the fog of your current circumstances. You no longer have to beg for confirmation from the natural world, because you carry the legal seal of the promise within your own heart. The spirit of delay can no longer confuse your path or steal your focus, for you know that the weight you feel is the protection of the word, not the shadow of your defeat. You are the guardian of the set time. You are a palm bearer of the decree. You are the one who carries the legal weight of heaven across the threshold of your earthly house. You are no longer just a resident of your home, you are the diplomat of a kingdom. The silence at your dinner table is being replaced by the weight of a mantle that commands respect without needing to raise its voice. You carry the atmosphere of the throne room into your living room, changing the spiritual climate of your entire lineage. You are the host of the Moed, and your presence is a boundary that the enemy cannot cross. Being a bearer of the decree means that your house is now under a different jurisdiction. The pressure that used to break your peace is now the authority that establishes your boundaries. You are authorized to host the Moed without letting the thunder of the presence crush your family life. Decisions that once paralyzed you will now bow to the clarity of the decree you carry. You do not ask for permission from the world to be who God said you are. You simply manifest the decree in every room you walk into. You are heaven's representative. You are sent before the time. You are the one who arrives at the solution before the problem even manifests in the physical realm. You are an heir of the encounter who moves with a rhythm that the enemy cannot track, for you are operating on a calendar that is not of this world. You have been synchronized to the frequency of the harvest, while others are still complaining about the winter. You are the provision that arrives before the famine, the answer that was spoken before the question was ever asked. You are the divine exception to every rule of lack. This identity authorizes you to walk with the straight spine of a conqueror in the middle of a conflict. As one sent before the time, your intuition has become an instrument of divine strategy. You stop reacting to the crises of the day and start positioning yourself for the triumphs of tomorrow. The enemy is frustrated by your movements because you are no longer deciding based on what you see, but based on the appointment that was scheduled for you in eternity. You are the strategy of God in your workplace, your city, and your family. Just as Gideon's 300 men were chosen not for their strength, but for how they maintained their frequency while refreshing their souls, these three names have synchronized your spirit to the frequency of the Moed. You are no longer a broken vessel leaking resources. You are a calibrated receptor, ready to host the arrival of the king. But there is something that the enemy desperately does not want you to know about these three names. Because once you understand the one thing Gideon had to destroy before his encounter became a victory, the enemy loses the only weapon he has left against your house. Stay. Now that you have identified the Moed and received the three names of your commission, do not expect the adversary to retreat in silence. He has watched you thresh wheat in the winepress, and he is terrified that you have finally recognized the knock of the divine appointment at your door. He will not attack your potential, he will attack your perspective. He is a master of the counter-offensive, waiting for the moment your spirit is high to strike at your common day. We are unlocking the strategic map of his maneuvers right now, so you are never caught off guard again. The first tactic is the erosion of comparison. The adversary whispers that your calendar is broken and that you have fallen behind the pace of God's chosen. He points to the visible harvests of others and mocks the frozen soil of your winter, trying to make you believe that your delay is actually a denial. He wants you to judge your internal preparation by someone else's external manifestation, forcing you to rush into a season you aren't ready to host. He uses the success of others as a weapon to make you despise the specific path of your own appointment. Your first weapon is the decree of uniqueness. You must speak what God said about your season, not what you feel about your speed. You declare, "My trajectory is a singular appointment, and I refuse to compare the depth of my winter with the surface of another man's spring." This weapon silences the noise of the world's expectations and realigns your soul with the specific frequency of your Moed. You are not late, you are scheduled. By speaking this decree, you protect the archive of your purpose from the poison of envy and the hurry of the world's false timelines. The second tactic is the erosion of perception. The adversary tries to make you interpret divine silence as divine rejection. He knows that a Moed requires a quiet spirit to be heard, so he fills your house with static, domestic noise, and small, unnecessary fires to drown out the still, small voice. He wants you to look at the silence at your dinner table or the pressure in your marriage and see a curse instead of a sacred chamber. He uses the weight you carry to create a distance between you and the very people who should be your strength. Your second weapon is the altar of memory. When the house is loud and the perception is clouded, you must return to the legal proof recorded in your history. You recall the specific moment, the exact hour, when God was unequivocally real in your life. This memory is not a sentimental thought. It is a legal document in the court of heaven that proves the spirit of delay is a liar. The memory of the last word God spoke is the weapon that defeats the static of the present moment. You build an altar in your mind that no storm can shake. The third tactic is the erosion of persistence. The adversary's goal is to make you give up exactly 24 hours before the turn of the tide. He concentrates the entire weight of the last 7 years into this final mile, making the pressure feel unbearable just as the door is about to swing open. He wants you to believe that the exhaustion you feel is proof that you have failed, when it is actually proof that you are at the threshold of the encounter. He bets on your fatigue to steal the harvest that is already legally yours. Your third weapon is the last-second resistance. This is not about running a marathon. It is about refusing to move from the threshold. When everything in your body and your mind screams for you to drop the mantle and walk away, you choose to simply stand. You do not need to fight with your own strength. You only need to refuse to vacate the position. This weapon is the stubborn insistence that if God scheduled the appointment, He will provide the strength to host it. You are a sentinel who stays at his post until the relief arrives. As an act of positioning, subscribe to this channel right now. Do this not as a social gesture, but as a positioning of your receptor for the days that are coming. You are marking this frequency as the place where you receive the strategy to host your appointment. By this act, you tell the atmosphere that you are no longer a wanderer in the fog, but a student of the wisdom that Solomon left recorded. You are setting your coordinate on the map of the harvest. Position yourself now before we enter the final chamber of the decree. Now that you know with what you are dealing and with what you can fight, there is a prayer that must be made, not by me, but by you, and I will lead you. It is the prayer that silences the adversary and activates the instruments you now hold. We are about to move from strategy to authority. Do not look away. For the next 3 minutes we'll seal everything we have built here tonight. Close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths. The final word is waiting for you in the center of the storm. Stay. Close your eyes now. Place both hands over your chest. Breathe deeply before we continue. You are standing in the center of a storm you didn't ask for, but one you were specifically scheduled to host. You feel the physical exhaustion of a sentinel who has forgotten what it feels like to be off duty. Your body is vibrating with a permanent alert that has no off switch. Your mind is a courtroom where the jury never reaches a verdict, and your house has become a collection of rooms separated by a silence that screams. You are here to acknowledge that you cannot carry the weight of a divine appointment with the strength of a common day. You are admitting that the mantle feels like a leaden weight, and you are finally ready to stop treating this visit as an attack on your peace. You are acknowledging that the silence of the last few months was not a void, but a preparation. You are confessing that you looked for God in the thunder and the fire, but you missed the guest who was already sitting at your table. Now, you align your frequency with the Moed. You stop being a spectator of your own crisis and become the administrator of your appointment. This is the moment where the unexplained urgency meets the legal decree, and you finally understand that you weren't being buried, you were being planted. You breathe in the authority of the names you have received, letting them settle into your bones like ancient truth, transforming the pressure of the mantle into the power of the mission. You are now positioning yourself to no longer run from the shadow of the winepress that has been your secret refuge. You are deciding to stay right here, at the threshold of your Moed, even if your hands are shaking and your heart is pounding against your palms. You are opening the internal archives of your spirit to receive the 3 names that rewrite your history: Keeper of the Promise, Bearer of the Decree, and Sent before the time. You are accepting that the period of hiding is over, and the season of hosting has begun. You are standing your ground against the spirit of delay, refusing to let the exhaustion of the last mile steal the glory of the first step. You are here, you are present, and you are staying until the final seal is applied. I have seen you in the deep stillness of the night, when you were staring at the white ceiling, while the rest of the world slept in peace, and I felt the tightness in your chest arrive before the first conscious thought of the day could even form. I saw you gripping the edge of the mattress with white knuckles, trying to breathe through a nameless pressure that told you that you were falling behind a clock you didn't set. I was there in the dark when you looked at the shadows on the wall and felt like a stranger in your own skin, hosting a weight that had no name and no relief. I saw the startle in your eyes at 3 in the morning, and I knew it was the knock of the appointment you were trying to ignore. I saw you sitting alone at the kitchen table, your head buried in your hands, paralyzed by the signature on that document because the clarity you begged for had not yet arrived. I saw you take the step in desperation because the silence of heaven felt like a threat to your survival, and I saw you wake up the next morning with the heavy lead of an error you had already diagnosed but did not have the instrument to avoid. I saw you looking at the patterns of your past failures and fearing that your future was just a louder echo of the same mistakes. I saw you agonize over the choices that felt like life or death, while the world moved on as if nothing was at stake in your small private room. I saw you opening the heavy front door of your house, carrying the leaden weight of the world on your shoulders like an uninvited guest you couldn't leave at the porch. I saw you sit down at the dinner table and drop that weight into the middle of the meal, and I saw your spouse look at the shadow on your face and learn, in that very moment, to stop asking, "How was your day?" just to keep the storm from breaking. I saw your children glance at the tension in your jaw and decide to keep their stories to themselves, sensing there was no room for their small joys in the vastness of your silence. I saw the distance grow in the very room where you were supposed to be the anchor of peace and the light of the home. I saw it all, and I have not come to judge the winepress, but to commission the one who has been hiding inside it. You thought the pressure was the sound of your life collapsing, but it was the sound of the archive of your purpose being opened. I am renaming the weight you carry. It is no longer a burden of survival. It is the authority of the decree. You are not a victim of the dark. You are the host of the light that is about to break the silence of your entire lineage. I have placed the mantle upon you not because you were ready, but because the time was set. Your identity is no longer defined by the struggle you endured, but by the appointment you are now hosting with a straight spine and a clear heart. You are committed. You are commissioned. You are sent. You are committed. You are commissioned. You are sent. You are committed. You are commissioned. You are sent. Don't say amen yet. Stay here. Keep your hands on your chest and feel the shift in the atmosphere of the room. The seed that was buried in the frozen soil of your winter has finally broken through the crust. The earth that looked dead and silent was actually the womb of your next season, protecting you while you were being tuned to the frequency of the King. The harvest you thought was lost to the spirit of delay is now manifesting because you stopped fighting the pressure and started hosting the presence. The winter was not a season of loss. It was the season of deep, silent rooting that will now support the weight of the fruit that is arriving. Now you may say amen. Don't open your eyes yet. Keep your hands on your chest. The seal is fresh. And it's exactly now that the adversary will try his first attack. What was sealed here right now will be tested on the very first Monday morning. When the alarm clock rings, when the routine returns, when the voice of the cycle tries to reread what happened today as just a passing emotion of a Sunday night. He who was commissioned without an instrument walks in the open field without what Solomon left recorded exactly for this moment. The exception was opened in heaven. Now it needs to survive the common day. The code of Solomon's wisdom is in the first pinned comment right below, not as a substitute for what you received in this message, but as a companion to defend what was sealed, because a decree without an instrument rots on the first Monday morning. And the adversary counts on Monday. It costs less than a Starbucks coffee in the afternoon, less than a Saturday afternoon snack. It comes with a 7 days guarantee and the 2 bonus instruments that stay with you even if it doesn't serve you. The risk is ours. The hand is yours. Click now while the decree is still alive in your chest. Not tomorrow, not after your shower, not after talking to someone, because those who leave it for later leave it for never. And the adversary counts on the later. That voice whispering right now, "You'll see later," decide tomorrow. Now is not the time. That voice is not yours. That voice is the voice of the one who lost today in the court of heaven and is trying to recover ground on your Monday morning. He has already counted on later in every other message you received and postponed. He is counting on later now too. This won't be just another one. Click before the adversary speaks louder than the decree that has just been sealed over your head. And now, the last word. There is someone in your circle carrying exactly what you carried until today. Someone who is going to arrive home tonight, unloading the same heavy mantle of a moed without a map. Someone who is going to lay their head on the pillow with the same soul on alert, feeling the knock of an encounter they cannot name. This person will not stop scrolling on their own. They need someone to send them the coordinates. That someone is you. This is not sharing a video. It is spiritual intercession. Now close your eyes. Take 3 breaths and remain in silence until the video ends. What was done here needs to land. Don't scroll, don't leave, stay.